The Radium Podcast, episode 41. Got KDE in the house.
Always here.
Always here. Affirmative.
Currently present.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about AI lately, so I got that AI affirmative talk down. Robo talk.
You are a robot, Brad. I think that's what we figured out on the Jay Romero podcast.
Yeah. I've been
I remember.
slowly being programmed. Yeah.
Learning. You're learning.
I'm deep learning. We also have a very special guest today. Composer, music editor, guitar player, sound designer. Shit, what do you not do? Andrew Prahlow.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Nice for having me. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course, dude. It's funny too, because like I'm on your Instagram and I'm like, shit, what does this guy not do? Like literally, because you're like playing the piano and then you're like going over and like doing guitar swell shit and like making these crazy atmospheres. And I'm like, fuck, man. And then you got this room set up with nice monitors, which is how we met, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sold you the focals. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the strangest thing.
Yeah.
But like in the fact that you were working in film as well at the same time as me for Mark Mothersbaugh, I believe at the time.
Yeah.
And here we are today,
Isn't
like
that crazy,
3 or
though?
4 years later.
Yeah, it's been like 3 years or so. And this, by the way, guys, this is from a Craigslist. Like, I posted my monitors up on Craigslist.
Brad secretly works at Guitar Center.
Exactly. I'm a reseller, a wholesaler for Focal. No, so this was actually just like from a Craigslist post, and then I think I was just like, oh yeah, you score films. I think you introduced me to a director or something. I forget what it was. Like some female director that was making short films got my information from you or something, and then anyway, long story.
I don't know. Yeah.
Long story short, the connection continued, right? So yeah, tell our listeners a little bit about you, your background, how you got into all this crazy music shit.
Well, I guess I went into undergrad knowing I wanted to do music, but wasn't really sure what my focus was. So I started as a music tech, but then switched to like classical trumpet performance, like after a semester. And I focused on that like really hardcore up until I started to realize that you could, and I was always in bands though and stuff, but then I realized you could actually have a career like writing music.
Yeah.
So I was like, what, why wouldn't I want to do that? So then I changed my major again, and then like wanted to focus on like games and film mostly. And then flew out to LA to go to USC for the grad program. And then year after that, like I started working at Nickelodeon as like an assistant composer or composer assistant, and like a little bit of additional music on like Kung Fu Panda and Legend of Korra. I was working for like Jeremy Zuckerman and Benjamin Nguyen.
Dope.
And that was really like my first time like really seeing how to run like a small team.
Yeah.
And like how to like we did a lot of stuff ourselves, like recording, and like so everyone kind of had to know how to do everything.
Yeah.
And I mean that's always what I wanted to do. Like I was always like a very like DIY aesthetic person.
Right.
Just playing in like bands and stuff. So it was like, and then after that, the shows ended, and I just kind of went out on my own and started doing things.
Right.
And I collaborate a lot now with like composer Mark Petrie. We do a lot of trailer music together.
That's sick, yeah.
And I work for like a couple game studios around town. White Elk, which is a VR company. We just released our second game this past September. And then another one called Mobius Digital in downtown, and we're signed through
Mobius,
Annapurna.
Dope.
And our game will be released soon as well. So
Wow. So you're busy.
yeah, I try to keep as busy as I can without like going too overboard.
Yeah, right. It is easy to get like completely overboard, obsessed with the music thing, because it's just because you're creating and there's like endless possibilities and plugins and
Aspects. Different.
yeah.
You said you were in music tech, right? That was kind of your first.
Yeah, so like it
Focus,
was, it was only the first semester. So the crazy thing was that we were doing like all analog tape stuff.
Sick.
So it was like so much easier to wrap my head around like digital going into it. Cause I was like, oh yeah, this is like putting on a new reel, or like this is like that. And like, so that was like a good foundation for sure.
Yeah. What made you like kind of, it sounds like you really got into the video game. What was the strong push force for that?
I just love video games. I grew up playing them.
Okay, top 5.
Like I always liked, and I like how now, there's a lot of overlap with like film and video games, and it's not like just chip tunes anymore, and it's not just like loops. Like you get to create a whole world, and like implementing it is really fun, and like figuring out how to move the story along it's just really exciting to me. And like you have to use your imagination a lot, because when you're starting with the game, there's like not much material. It's just like you're talking with the creative director, and they're giving you words to go off of, and maybe concept art. Like maybe, like usually
like
not though. Yeah, it'll be like rough storyboards, and then like I was trying to find out a color palette.
Yeah, no, that's super important. I feel like the storyboards or whatever they give you is like what you have to go off of, but at the end you have to be able to see and hear the finished product, because a lot of the times the storyboards can get into the actual animation, and like for me personally, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's like when something's actually moving, you know, once it's finally animated and you see the way that it moves, it like tells you a lot more about how to make the music work with it. You know, like just seeing a storyboard or even an animatic, it's just so rigid that you're like, I need the movements. Like the movements will tell you what to do musically a lot of the times. So,
well, what's your top 5 game scores of all time?
Top 5 game scores? Ooh, that's tough.
That is tough.
If I'm not gonna say these in any order, but I think recently I've really loved the Uncharted 3 score a lot. Shadow of the Colossus, I'm a big fan of. I really like the sound design and music, the way they incorporate it with like Inside. All of Playdead's games are really incredible. What else? Let's see. Of course, like Ocarina of Time. And then there's this game called what is it called? Firewatch. Firewatch had a really cool score. It's like a pretty short indie game that came out maybe a couple years ago. That's a big fan of that.
So what's the console of choice? Like, what do you mainly play on?
PS4. And then like I have a Switch too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So you're a pretty avid gamer as well.
I feel like the more that I not work in games, the less I even have time to play them. So
always, right?
Yeah. Like I get on there when I can, but
yeah. Then you're like, oh shit, wait, I gotta write cues.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit, I still got a lot of minutes of music to write.
I think a lot of people who are just starting in music and like, you know, writing, you know, especially music to picture or for commercials, they don't understand how fast paced it is and like, you know, how short the deadlines are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true, especially once you get around like crunch time towards the end of like when you have to ship the game. It's just like
the revision notes.
Pure insanity,
Yeah. Same thing with film. Film and I don't think TV as much. Typically, they just are so used to flipping stuff so quick. So you get like, okay, here's the week. You got, you know, these 4 days to write all the music for the episode. Now you're going to get a day of the director taking it, and then you get a day to make revisions on whatever notes he has. You know what I mean? And they're used to that. But it is, I feel like it's changing a lot depending on the medium, the distribution medium. Like, for example, now Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and all these streaming services, that those are delivered typically on like, you know, chunks. So it's like episodes 1 through 6 and then, you know, 7 through 12, or maybe it's 1 through 3, 4 through 6, you know what I mean? And so on. So it's definitely changing with the platforms. But film is like one of probably the worst, because it's like, I think everyone gets a false sense of confidence at the beginning. Because it's like, oh,
you feel like you have a lot of time.
Let's just experiment. You know, get the Moog out. Let's fuck around with some stuff. Yeah, this is fun. This is great. And then like everyone kind of just like whatever's, and you're trying to get themes down and stuff. But then it's like once you get into the beef of it and you have an edit. And I'm talking animation and live action. It's like you got an edit now. It's like go, you know, and you're like on reels and you're just like going. And then the director's going, you know what? Fuck all that. Get rid of all that. We don't like that. And you're like, what?
Back to hurry up and wait.
Yeah, totally. And you can't wait on anything. You're like constantly trying to figure out what's inside of the director's head, the producer, the studio. What's the studio going to say about it? Is this going too far? Do we need to pull it back and be safer? it's crazy, like that whole world, because you're working. It's really music by community, by committee, and how much of that happens in the gaming world? Because I'm not really familiar with scoring to game and making music for gaming.
I'd say the way that I approach it is we always do kind of like I'll demo for a game usually, and I'll be going up against a couple other composers.
Right.
And then I'll just send over my demo, whatever I think would work the best.
Right.
And then you usually have to wait a couple weeks after everyone's submitted, and then from there, like they're like, yeah, we like your vision for this project, and then you go from there. But the cool thing about scoring for games other than film and television that I really enjoy is the fact that it's like non-linear the whole time.
Yeah.
So you can and I love ambient music, and like that's what my real forte is. And there's so much ambient music in video games.
Yeah, totally.
Like even like
it's like the world, right?
Yeah.
So you're making like worlds, like landscapes and.
Mm-hmm. And even in like I worked on Madden 2015, like just the whole franchise for that 1 year.
Nice.
And I wrote so much ambient music that is in there.
That's crazy.
It's there.
Yeah.
Like
It's
you
there,
can
I
barely
promise.
hear it, but like it's crazy how much music is even in like a sports game, like just in the background to have like a little something going.
Yeah, it's the layer. It's like the texture that if you took it out, you would notice like this is weird and doesn't I feel awkward.
Yeah, but it's crazy, and like I noticed it now that I've done it, but like before that, I never noticed that there was music like that in there.
That's fucking crazy. I never thought about that actually. I don't think a lot of people think about it.
From the viewer's perspective, I think when they hear like, especially just going back to film, like they hear the score soundtrack and they think that's the only music in the movie. You know what I mean? There's those 12, 13s.
Yeah.
And same with video game soundtracks or any soundtrack. It's like, well, no, there's just these 12 pieces.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, like I think the main thing is like when they have the thematic, the main theme parts where it's like, the Hans Zimmer stuff and the Christopher Nolan stuff, like. Them pushing the score up so much. I think that kind of changed a lot of how people started doing things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was really necessarily so loud and like pronounced in film, but yeah, I think most of the time there's always something going. Like whether it's like, okay, this scene calls for no music, you still have an atmosphere, you have a sound of a room, the spaceship, the whatever. But I don't think people really sense that it's just part of like the human experience. Like if you took it out, you'd be like, this is fucking weird. What's wrong with this? There's something's broken.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. So when you're scoring, this is probably specific to gaming. Are you like breaking down different like underbed versions, or are you like creating a bunch of different versions of a single piece?
A lot of it is dealing with stimming, just like in film and television.
Right.
And then also that way, like to make the score more cohesive, you're able to like use that later on in the game, like maybe use some of the same textures, or like if you have a theme, especially if you record it live, you can like bring it back, but have a new arrangement underneath it. So it also helps with the workflow too. But for implementation, sometimes they're going to want to like bring some of that down or like mute some of it, depending on what's going on in the gameplay.
Right. Like I always wonder, like when there's those little scenes when it becomes like an actual video and there's like dialogue and things change, like do you score that specifically to that scene? Like do you get that scene as if
cutscenes you're talking about?
Yeah, that's like exactly like scoring to film in that part. If there's a cutscene,
yeah, that's cool. I always love that part of the new video games. It's just so real,
Yeah, I mean, I love doing those, and like especially when there's like timed events, you'll do the same thing. Where like then you're also, even though the player is technically still in game,
right?
Like you'll score it like a film.
Gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, I wonder like how. I guess it's like a lot of the editor's job and probably the using the software or however they use the the fade in, fade out. But you were just mentioning about looping earlier, like looping the actual musical track and how that works. I remember we worked on like the Lego movie, like the Lego video game, and we had to actually bounce things a certain way out of Logic. Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
Yeah, like the bounce second pass.
Yeah, like where it has like a perfect loop point sort of thing. Is that how you guys do it? With
it depends on the cue, but yeah, there's the bounce second cycle pass.
Right.
Then there's always the way where you can like cut the reverb tail and put it at the beginning.
Right.
You know?
See, that's what I was wondering.
That's the part that it can get tedious if you're jumping into a lot of stems, because then everything has to be edited like perfectly, or else you're gonna hear a click like every 2 minutes in game. So.
Click, pop, click. Yeah, so there's probably a lot of that is within like the middleware that does the fading and stuff for them. Yeah, that's an interesting workflow. I always thought about like, and video games are just getting more and more complex.
Getting smart. Those scripts are getting really dynamic, right?
Yeah, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and especially like in VR now.
Yeah.
I mean, because usually like 9 times out of 10 the player's wearing headphones, so even when you're scoring, you can be very, very subtle with what you're doing, and it's like super effective.
Yeah.
Which I like love. I love minimalism, and I love like focusing on like the complexity of like sonic textures.
Right.
And like this is a way that you can like really hone in on that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
using like compression and stuff to bring out those little tonalities, do you end up using a lot of tools like that? Are you doing a lot of like production work, I guess?
I mean, I like to work with chamber ensembles or like soloists, and then make them sound huge with like my own, like, as you know, like on Instagram, like those kinds of textures. Really, the stuff on Instagram is me just kind of practicing and like showing the world, like
coming up with sounds,
ideas. Yeah, that's more improvisational. But like when I do that the same way, like for scores, like I will do that exact same thing and like figure out what I want to do.
Yeah,
but
it's
like
cool. I like that idea.
Just like focus on it and like make sure everything's mic'd like really cleanly. And,
So what are some of your like favorite go-to like pedals or gear that you're using right now with those sounds?
Let's see, my favorite pedals. I guess Chase Bliss just came out with like this Dark World pedal that I'm a big fan of.
Fuck yeah.
That's really cool. Like everything Walrus Audio makes.
Yeah, they make shit.
They're really good.
Shit, yeah. Where are they out of? They're like Midwest or something, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what state, but yeah, all their gear is like incredible.
Yeah.
So, and then I just started getting into modular.
Nice.
But I don't.
Going down that rabbit hole.
I don't know enough to even have enough to say about it yet. Except that it's like what I love about it is that like having a pedal chain is linear, but this is like anything can do anything, like controlled with CV.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the possibilities are very, like it's like exploring this whole world and like.
Right.
But I'm gonna try to get into that, using that for audio manipulation too, and I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, that'll be a really cool texture to add.
Mm-hmm.
So what go-to plugins?
Sound Toys.
Yeah.
Like all Sound Toys package, and then like UAD.
Yeah.
All their stuff like is just killer.
Yeah. What are your favorites in UAD?
UAD? Ooh, like the 1176s.
Yeah, those are great.
Like, I mean, I like to set it up like, just like stuff that I don't have as outboard that I would normally use. Like, but yeah, those 1176s are amazing.
Yeah, the anniversary edition with the 2-in-1. I love that shit. It's amazing.
And like anything with tape.
Yeah, you use the Studer A800.
Not really.
You got to get it. That's a great plugin.
I'll check it out.
That's so amazing, and I love like that you can change the tape formulas and stuff. Brilliant plugin.
Let me ask you a question. How often do you get to work outside of the box, and how often are you working inside the box as far as the pieces that you write?
I'd say for like trailer music is definitely a lot of inside the box, but for all my texture is outside the box. Like pretty much, like I try to only work with like live strings now. Like at my place, I have like a setup for like we're about to do like a quartet session this week. But
there you go.
Yeah, I've have slowly moved to where like all my stuff is now outside the box, but I'm like recording it at home. And like even like with piano, I love to like do piano manipulation. Sometimes I'll throw that in digitally.
Nice.
But outside the box as much as possible, unless it's for like a huge film trailer, and then that's when you need like that very aggressive like synthetic sound.
Yeah, I feel like and just my opinion on digital versus analog is that with digital you just get that immediacy that you can't get with analog, like that like very transient, very in your face, immediate sound. And the analog thing, it's like that textured, 3-dimensional, soft kind of thing. So the blend of the two is just, it's amazing that we have all these tools now.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Let's talk a little bit about trailer music, because I think we talked a bit about the video game stuff, and I really want to hear your opinion because you've actually scored some pretty big trailers. So, what do you think about trailer music? Because I feel like it's this weird mixture of so many genres, from like even straight pop to like a lot of like heavy orchestra, choir. And it's a bit ridiculous in my opinion sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes it fun though. Like, it's just so larger than life all the time that you can like do stuff that's just like so crazy. It's like, but like then when they put it to like the trailer, like it feels right. Like you don't want it to be like this little dinky thing. Like,
right. Hey, go watch our movie we made. It cost $200 million to make. It's pretty dinky. Like... It's got a guitar on it.
I mean, it is super trendy, and there are a lot of trailer trends, and it does follow pulp culture like pretty closely.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Like, it gives me and it gives everyone. Like, I'm a big believer in listening to like everything that's on the radio all the time, no matter what. So you always know what's current, and especially with trailer music, that is super true. Like,
because like definitely have their things.
Kind of go hand in hand with like what's popular right now in like pop music world and what's popular in trailers.
Yeah.
Did you get heavy into dubstep when dubstep bled into trailer music?
Trailers did. I didn't do any of that.
Okay,
that's not my forte.
They didn't hire you for that? Like, hey, you wanna, Andrew, you wanna do some dubstep?
Yeah, I avoided that. So but yeah, we get to record live sometimes. Like I work a lot with my friend Mark Petrie, and like sometimes the cool thing with trailer music is you can do some really incredible sessions. Like we went out to Abbey Road and like recorded there for like 3 days.
Yeah.
For like his trailer record that just came out. It's called Big Sky.
Nice.
And I worked on the track Big Sky, and then there's another one coming out later on with like a couple more tracks on it by the same company.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's why we both love it too. Like you can really be expressive, and like just recording with a whole live orchestra, there's like nothing like that ever.
Beats it, right?
Like
a bunch of humans breathing in a room. That's always the cool part, is you have this noise floor that's like next to nothing because the studios are designed so well, or the stages are designed so well. But then
they use all these noisy old school mics, you know what I mean? Especially if you're talking like Abbey Road, they're throwing up.
Yeah, but you still have like
oldies.
you have all these like the big part about it that I love is that sure, the noise floor of the mics and the analog consoles and stuff, right? But it's like that warm, just really nice noise. And then the only other thing you can hear is just like people like just little rustling. And like you can hear and you can feel that there's 70 people in a room,
Yeah.
I think that's something that you never really quite get right with the sampling and stuff, that you can't really do very well. It just doesn't seem right. But yeah, that stuff's incredible. Like every time, I've heard a movie with a live orchestra or whatever, and those moments where you need that real heartstring moment or you need to pull people in, like that's got to be the live orchestra. That's a huge part of it.
Let me ask you about trailer music. I feel like now that we're talking about, live orchestra, I feel like with trailer music, you have to go bigger than real life. You know what I mean? And that's
that's definitely true. That's absolutely true.
Because you're like, how much reverb can I throw on this? It's already like recorded with reverb. You know what I mean?
But it's like, I mean, the one main note that I'll always receive, and I feel like it goes for everyone working in trailers, is expect that they're like, make the ending bigger.
Right.
Like more times than not, they're like, like extend it, make it bigger every time.
Yeah.
So like,
does that mean more layers, or what is your typical
like usually it just means like make it hit harder without while still staying clean.
Gotcha.
And like just having it like, because in every trailer there's always like that huge build at the end that just goes on for like forever. So they need like enough material to where like it doesn't feel like it's peaking down. It has to like keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it just needs to stay massive.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like that hook where you're like, okay, now come watch it, because it just keeps going. It just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, all trailer music is very hooky.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's like almost like making a beat or something, but with like using a different set of tools,
Like do it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and if it's not catchy, like it's probably not going to get licensed.
Yeah, no shit.
So
I mean, I feel like one of the biggest parts of trailer music, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have a great edit. Like the editor that's editing the trailer with the VO, the actual copy, and putting that story together of what this movie is, and like that hook has to be really nice for you to actually like score something that is also nice and consistent, you know?
Yeah, and you have to kind of write it knowing that it will be edited. So write it so that it's easier for them to edit, because they're probably like, if they're using your track, they're probably going through like a billion different renditions on their end, and then using your music to like try to figure out how to fix their new cut.
Yeah, totally.
So, and if it's too hard for them to edit to your stuff, they're probably just going to throw it out and go with someone else's music.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Have you gotten to write around any cool pop songs, I guess, or renditions of pop songs? Or
we did a Smashing Pumpkins thing that fell through. But it was cool to
that would have been dope.
But yeah, no, I haven't done any covers for trailers yet.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but
that's been a super trendy thing, I think, in how long? Past 5 or
It's
something?
always been that way.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
I feel like since the beginning of trailers, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, who should we get on this? You know, like,
it's
do a remake.
The eerie vocals,
yeah, totally,
with slams in between. Yeah,
all the horror movies were like remakes of classic songs or lullabies, and then they had a little girl. We should have a little girl sing. It's funny because like you think about that creative conversation with the creatives, and it's just like, wah wah, here we go again. Yeah, have the little girl singing the bedtime lullaby in the trailer. It'll be so creepy.
Yeah, it would be.
But
just every time.
You know what I noticed with I just feel like every composer should like practice writing trailer music, because I'm sure it taught you a lot, just doing those pieces of music over. There's probably
a lot of artists
LA blacklist.
They're like, nah, I ain't doing that shit.
Let me ask you, because this is like an interesting conversation. I feel like, and me and Brad talked about this, but like there really is no separation between sound design and music these days. You know what I mean? Even a lot of music houses offer sound design just because it's like they go so hand in hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I know trailer composers who will specialize in like writing tracks that they'll call it melodic sound design. So it's really sound but easy to edit to, and there's like some sort of like signature
tone
like
that
they're using.
Notes.
Yeah,
totally.
But yeah, like melodic sound design is a big thing, and like just like those games I was talking about, Inside, this game called Inside, which is really cool. Check it out. The composer for that is also the sound designer, I believe, but it kind of like swirls between like melodic sound design, and sometimes a theme will come in, but it's also just like all the sound in it is so incredibly detailed.
That's sick.
But yeah,
I love that idea.
Cool. Limbo was their first game they made, but like they really like brought it up even another notch on like when this game came out like a year or two ago. Like
that's sick. So what keeps you motivated to continue in the music industry, and like where are you headed with it all?
I mean, what keeps me motivated is, of course, like listening to records, like hearing new records come out every year. Like
so many.
The new "This Will Destroy You" record this year. I'm a big fan of post rock.
Nice.
And like I felt like they really just like knocked it out of the park. Like it wasn't the same structures that people are used to. It was a lot less predictable. So hearing that, and like then just like seeing my friends succeed, that keeps me motivated too, because it's like, we're all doing this together. It's like incredible. And then like being inspired just by like film is really inspirational to me a lot too. So like saw Hereditary this year. It's very moving film. It's very dark,
I gotta see that,
but it's crazy, and the score in that is really cool.
Nice.
And it does also touch on, like you were saying, like between sound design and music, like it kind of shifts back and forth.
Tonal sounds and stuff. Yeah, that's.
So.
I feel like that's the future, man. I feel like if in composing, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not going to be anything other than like bleeding that into score really hard. And I mean, you hear it with these big film scores. It's like there's so much sound design in it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think it all just comes. It circles around. It's like, it goes from jingles to sound textures to jingles again to blend of the two to, it's just, I feel like a lot of it has to do with directors and the actual creators' influence and how they grew up and what kind of stuff they're wanting, because like as composers, like, let's make this clear, like we make what we're trying to parallel someone else's vision,
Right.
Like we're not making the video game. We're like trying to, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? Oh, that's actually really cool. Now let me shape it.
Yeah.
For my game,
exactly.
for my movie, for my TV show to sell my product through this commercial.
Actually, no, good.
I'm saying, that's what makes it kind of like it's like every company, like game company is kind of like a band, and it's like who's
right.
like it's one vision.
Yeah.
And that everyone's coming together to make it.
Totally. And you're like that. You're like part of the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me. What I was gonna say is that like this is a topic that me and Brad have talked about pretty deep. But how much do you think music kind of bleeds onto score, whether it's in TV, film, trailer music? Like, how much of popular music bleeds into that? You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the film, really. Like, like I know Baby Driver did that a lot, where it's like a lot of the soundtrack is like him listening to music.
Oh yeah,
a lot of source stuff, right?
Yeah, and like trying to think of what else does
music
that.
supervision is like, that's a good point. And
back to dubstep, remember?
No, totally. But to like
dubstep and
to riff
advertising.
off of that, like I find that there's like the movies that do the score and music supervising really like combined, where they put that together. Those are the movies that I think do really well with the music.
Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff like La La Land and stuff where they kind of blended that idea, Kev.
Yeah.
Where they were taking but that's like pseudo musical sort of thing, like those musical scores, they went crazy with that shit.
I was even just talking like trend wise, you know what I mean? Maybe not even like fitting popular music into video games or scores or films, but like how much like I said with dubstep, I just saw it just kind of like get into everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know like one game that did that was it's this really incredible moment about halfway through like the first Red Dead Redemption, where like the whole game has been like underscore up until that point, or like just like your standard stuff. But then when you're traveling across the border to Mexico, they kick in like a Jose Gonzalez song, and you're just like riding on your horse through Mexico, and it's like just these empty plains, and like it's like it gave like everyone chills down their spines because you just do not expect it at all.
Yeah.
It comes out of nowhere, like a voice singing, like.
That's weird.
It's like so that's like one moment I can think of where they did do that, like to use it as the score, because like it never happens again. Like it's that one moment, so it's really cool. I think it can be really effective with like the right song for sure.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother skill set, being a great music supervisor and understanding like where to pull from. I mean, that takes a lifetime of listening to music in detail and understanding it really well, and emotionally connecting with things, and able to bounce from, trap music to fucking Broadway musical stuff. It's like, it's a pretty cool thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Speaking on that, I feel like a lot of different genres kind of bled into advertising and even trailer music, like EDM has just been a heavy influence on trailer music.
It has for sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever do like a EDM trailer?
I mean, with like kind of the influences on with like the percussion and stuff, and bringing in those kind of beats,
drums
but
and stuff,
drops,
Yeah, I've never done like a straight like EDM trailer. I'd say like it's just pushing influence. Like I don't think I've heard a trailer yet that is just like straight EDM.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. They always have just like those drops, like Kevin was saying, like
Yeah, well, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I learned how to do for trailers, but like that is so big in EDM.
Yeah,
like, and I feel like that's where it came from. Kind
Exactly.
of.
Totally.
Yeah,
those big builds, and then like the drop, and
well, me and Brad were actually talking about how like in advertising, and if you're doing commercials and stuff, like the Black Keys, like their whole style and their music, just like everyone was trying to rip that for advertising.
Yeah, even till this day, I mean, they made a big influence. But yeah, that's similar with like how trailer music is kind of going side to side with pop music. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
same thing with commercials.
Yeah.
I think the big thing to understand here is with brands, when you're selling a product, a household product, a cheeseburger, a burrito, whatever, it's like you have to remember that these brands want people to feel secure with their product. And when you get like the Black Keys, they're like swag and cool, but still positive and upbeat, you know? And like the hard part, I think, with the advertising thing and music supervision, composing, whatever, right? Is that it always has to err on the side of positivity, you know? And as artists, as composers, we like to pull into all the emotions, right? We're not just trying to like, oh, I just want to make happy music all the time. We're like, no, I want to like take you on a ride, you know? I want you to feel a little pain. I want you to feel a little disdain. I want you to feel a little anger. And then I want to bring you out of it. You know what I mean? But commercials are like, no, we can't fucking do that. We're selling hand soap to mothers, you know, from the age of 28 to 49, you know, with dry skin. So,
Preach it.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you have to be really careful with that stuff. I think you always have to look at your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the movies that you're scoring, the trailers you're scoring.
You know
what
what
are they trying to pull in?
What I love is like when two things become synonymous. Like when you see like zombies, whether it's in video games or movies, like metal has been tied to zombies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's like really cheesy combos like that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
It's all from like in 28 Days Later, there's that scene like at the beginning where like they put that Godspeed song underneath it. Like that started that whole thing. Yeah. That never happened before. But I remember when I was seeing that, and that was one of the reasons where I was like, yeah, I want to score films. Like I was like, post-rock is in films now? That's amazing. Like, and that's when I realized like you don't have to just sound like Hans Zimmer or John Williams in that style now to compose for film.
So true.
Especially for like indie films and indie games. Like I try to sound like me, you know?
You have to
like
put
the
your
most I
flavor in
can.
there.
Like I sound like me, but in the version of like whatever story we're telling.
Totally.
Like I try to keep like part of me in there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that also is what makes it turn out the best. Rather
It's
than
also
trying
branding.
to like, yeah.
It's like you don't want to be the guy in LA, especially, you know, where they're like, yeah, that guy does
Really good knockoffs.
He kind of does whatever.
Yeah.
You know? But like he can do it all, yeah. And then like that guy, you got to go to him for that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like this is a big difference there.
Yeah, I've noticed like a big lesson that I've always tried to keep in the back of my head is that, I mean, a lot of people say you have to know how to write every kind of music and like always do that. But I feel like that's already, it's at a point now where that's understood. You have to know.
Yeah, we
but
get
like,
that. The
but-
prerequisite.
so that's like the prerequisite. But really what I strive to do is like have my own like sonic brand. Like when you hear my music, like you know that it's me and that it's like not a ripoff of someone else.
Right. It's like
And
your
sometimes
watermark.
it's really hard to do,
Yes.
but I'm never gonna not. I'm always gonna stick with that mantra where like there's still a little piece of me like in there because then again, why is someone hiring you?
Exactly.
They're hiring you because they want you.
Yeah.
Like
It's like the common thread, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, in composing, the most important thing I think is to keep the thread. Like never break that. Like that thread can't break where you're like, what the fuck happened? You took me out of it. Like that's I feel like your little watermark that goes throughout your music where people are like, oh, that's Andrew Prahlow, man.
and like the composers that I admire the most currently are like Johan Johansson, Max Richter,
oh yeah, he's
and
amazing.
Keith Kniff. And like Colin Stetson is just starting to get into it with Hereditary, but he's been a really cool saxophonist for a while. But like those, and then like the guys who did like Ex Machina, it's like Benjamin Salisbury, I think, and someone else.
Yeah, it's like a
like
little
could
duo.
we'll have to fact check that.
Yeah,
I probably could be saying the wrong name, but like all these guys like you can hear that in all their scores. Like there's still a little bit of them in there in some way.
Like what they grew up with and like said,
like,
I fucking love this. I'm gonna do
yeah,
this.
like so like you can like that is very admirable to me to see them to work on all these projects and you can still hear that like it's them at their core within the score.
That's
You
great.
know what I think it is? I think it's like all these guys had to do the die on the hill for it thing, you know what I mean? Where like they're like, I'm not going to change this. This is like my brand. If I was to sound like a Hans Zimmer knockoff, that wouldn't be me. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
I think it's hard. You have to balance it like with paying your bills.
Yeah.
Right. So like stuff you don't really want to be credited for, but you know what I mean? Like you do want that paycheck, and you're like, that's fine. Just don't put my name on it. And that, happens all the time. Like whether it's a commercial or whatever, it's like, you're like, oh yeah, I want that paycheck. So I'll do whatever you're asking for and, take you out of it or whatever. But, and then there's the things where it's like, I'm doing this film, my name's on it. I want it to make sure like I have my thread in it,
And that brings up another good point about how like no one should ever be too hip to take on any job because they're like, oh, that music's dumb. I don't want it's like
it's work.
It's like, dude, I love music. Like, of course I'll write like some cheesy like whatever thing for fun. It'll be fun still. Like you just make it fun. Like I'm not too cool to like do a toilet paper commercial.
Right?
Honestly, that would probably be hilarious to do. Like,
exactly. I mean, I've done Pampers commercials.
I actually wrote a pretty fire. Was it Barbie? Remember?
Barbie,
the Mattel?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was dope.
I think if you're too cool for anything, you're just you're actually kind of lame. Like that's the problem. It's like you think like in your head. I equate it to like when I'm drunk at the bar. And I'm actually like in the corner and I'm like really feeling myself, like I'm like 3-4 Manhattans deep. And I just like in my head, I'm killing it. I'm just like, fuck yeah. And you're just talking to people cool. You're just holding yourself. But like in real life, you're like in the corner, like holding yourself up and trying not to throw up. So, and that's what people see. But like those are the people that are like, no, man, that's whack. I don't do that. I don't do that. You're like, yeah, you're the guy in the corner. Like you actually look like you're gonna pass out soon. But yeah, man, what was your? Let's wrap this up. I wanna hear about your favorite project you've worked on to date.
My favorite project I've worked on to date. Ooh,
I know it's hard.
I'd say there's two that the scores are coming out. One of them just came out on Spotify this year. It's called Eclipse: Edge of Light.
Nice.
It was like the first VR game I worked on, and I'm like really, really proud of how that score turned out. Like, nice. And it's like the way that it fits with the game and in the game world. Yeah. Like, I'm so incredibly proud of that.
Right.
Nice. And then there's another film that was really close to my heart called Holding On, and it's like kind of like an slightly a little bit of an educational film that they've been touring around to high schools and stuff to help children understand their fellow colleagues like through mental illness and like dual diagnosis.
Right.
And so that one's, I like that project a lot just because it's like for such a great cause.
I love those projects.
So like everyone's heart and soul really went into it.
Yeah, everybody gives a shit, and like when they're not getting paid what they think they should get paid, they're like, totally fine,
And like I guess coming up, like I'm gonna be doing like a Johan Johansson like kind of reorchestration remix thing.
Fuck yeah.
And like since he's my favorite composer of all time, like I can't even believe I was asked to do it.
Yeah, that's so tight.
So like that for sure. Like I'm like. It still feels like a dream come true or something, but
and I gotta ask you one last thing, just for our viewers, because I know a lot of people like as you're saying stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my buddy so and so. Oh yeah, I gotta, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what kind of advice would you give to, let's say, someone that's making music in their room, whatever, they're starting out, or maybe they're even pretty like into composing, but getting into the video game world and scoring for video games? What advice would you give them to get into that realm?
Meet as many people as you can within the game industry.
There you go.
Try to buy a ticket and go to GDC.
Nice.
And just hang out the whole time. Make sure you go to like the things at the end of the evening every single day.
Right.
Meet as many people as you can, and just learn. Like, really, like you need to kind of start to just people will start to realize you're fun to work with if you're fun to hang out with.
Yeah, good point.
And like they'll find out you're talented like over time. So it's just like, and also like posting online I think is really important. Like having an online presence so that people just like hear your music,
Right.
Because if you're just at home and like you're too afraid to put anything out there, no one's ever going to hear it except for your friends and like your family.
That's a good point. I never think about that stuff, but like getting your sound out there every day. Like, you damn near do like lives every day now.
Yeah.
Right?
It was scary at first.
Yeah.
I'm glad I do them now, but I was like, well, this is going to give me a reason to really have to think on my feet because I don't really know what I'm going to create when I do those. Like I usually like get like a drone going or something, and then like I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. Right. And like the longer I've done it, like it's really helped with my improvisational skills.
For sure. Yeah, you're like forced to.
Yeah, like because then when people are watching you, like you can't stop. Like
right.
And like I try to go for like about at least like 30 minutes. So
it's cool, man. I'm loving it. You got to put like a compilation together.
Yeah, I should. I've been thinking about like finally just like start recording those and like releasing them like
that'd be sick
as a podcast or YouTube or something.
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool. And also, I feel like people could just take the music and use it on whatever. And it'd be fun. Like, I think that's so faux pas with composers and producers. But at the end of the day, I'm like, who fucking cares? What else are you going to do with it, right? And if it just like gets out there, you have a little bit of you, just like you're sharing to the world and you're saying, hey, don't give me anything, but just fucking take it. Like that's a big thing. Like the more you give out, the more comes back, and I think we are all so concerned, especially here in Hollywood with, hey, what's your budget? Oh, you stole my music, copyright. And it's like, why not just make some stuff that you can give out and people could use? Right?
Maybe I don't know. I don't know about that. Giving away music for free, I wouldn't agree with that.
He's trying to use some of your tracks. That's why.
I'm like, come on, let me just have some.
Like, actually, I could use that.
No,
one.
I mean, like when you're doing stuff like a stream of conscious sort of thing, it's like, put it on YouTube. Let people fuck with it. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think what I've learned from being around Mark Mothersbaugh and stuff. It's like. 80% of what he did was like no fees involved, You're always helping people. You have friends that are making movies and they don't have barely any budget, maybe nothing at all. Like you're doing stuff for free. It's just part of the game. It's like you're making art all the time for free that may go nowhere at all. So it just sits on hard drives. So But I understand the idea and the concept of not devaluating the art. Not devaluing the art, of course, like that's super important. But I also think with a business mind that you have to be able to give out the free samples. You have to be able to, share with the world. And, that's not always just like saying, hey, just go use this for whatever. Like, hey, go use this on a commercial that you're going to go buy a big advertising ad spend, media spend on. You could have it for free. Like that's bullshit, right? But for someone to like take it in and just be able to fuck with it and like do some art and like add to the world, I think it's a cool thing. Maybe I'll start doing that.
Brad's trying to get some handouts.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, so anyone just send me free stuff. Yeah, I just want free shit. Anyone design like coffee mugs? I'd love a coffee mug. Nothing's ever free though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It always like comes back in some way. So, but yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming by.
Thanks for having me so much.
Yeah, it's been great, and we gotta make some music. Not free music, but we gotta
Brad's trying to get all the free stuff.
all the free music.
So actually, and the crazy thing with trailer music is that you are pretty much. You don't know if it doesn't get licensed, you don't make any money. So
that's crazy.
Like everyone is doing it usually without any fees. Like so, we're working for this stuff for months and months with the hopes of getting placements. See? Sometimes it's like you have to wait a year or two. So like, and like that's the way I try to do it when I'm like working with vocalists too. I like prefer to like. We just all come in. I'm like, let's not keep track of hours. Like if everyone's putting in their fair share, like we'll just do the splits like whenever if we get it signed or anything like and that way like everyone's involved and it's not like who's billing who and that whole thing. So
yeah, because that is a weird way to start a project. You automatically put like a ceiling on the creativity. You can do this much, but then I'm not going to give you all of that because I got other projects that are paying me. Yeah, man. How can people watch all your really cool ass lives and stuff on Instagram?
Oh, I'm just Instagram at Andrew Prahlow. Just my name. I usually do a live like a couple times a week. Yeah. And I try to keep people updated like on the weekly with what I'm working on and like with the projects I'm allowed to share and stuff. So
That's the key.
Yeah, like there's some stuff that I wish I could really share,
Yeah.
but on there, but you can't. Like you have to get like approval.
Same. Yeah, the NDAs and the
Yeah.
oh yeah, people are paying me to make this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the approval's just like, hey, let me ask a guy who's pretty much going to say no.
Yeah,
Say no.
absolutely not.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, like someone's like, oh yeah, that's fine, but
Yeah, but just
most of the time, it's
keep
like,
it on your story.
let me check with the lawyer. He says no.
Yeah. And then go follow Kevin at KDE Beats.
At Bradley HD.
Nice, dude. No underscore. And at Radium _media.
I've been throwing Brad the curveball. Every time on the podcast I say Bradley _HD, and I'm gonna make a fake account.
It's gonna be a cat apparently, so it'll probably be bigger than my actual Instagram. So it's all good. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.